I
Okay.
know we're a couple minutes. I know we're a couple minutes early here for our football officials practice 15-yard foul. This is our NSAA public service announcement. Um, Today is the last day at no charge whatsoever. Football officials, it is no charge to watch the online meeting that ends today. Um, and you want to find time today to watch the meeting and make sure you click the verification that you completed the meeting and type in your name. It is free till today. And then part one test, Friday, August 22nd, midnight. It has to be done by midnight. You cannot start it at 11:25 and finish it after midnight. It will not count. All right, so go ahead and visit Timeout with PSOA live meetings. We did have a study session over the 50 questions. We did get a 50 out of 50 score on those 50 questions. Um, so again, officials, no charge today. If you complete the video, part one test is due Friday by midnight. And use the live meeting NSAA part one study session to help you pass the test. It is 5:30. Um, we are live and we are going to focus on 15-yard fouls now. If you are live with us right now, just so we know who is in attendance, we're asking you to please type in your name in the comment box. One, our coaches like to see who is engaging in practice. And then two, we just want to make sure the chat box is working. So as we go through this practice, if you have questions, since we're not live and you can't ask questions out loud, we want officials to use that chat box with questions. And before we move on to the next file, Zach Hunnell will ask the question out loud, and we as a group will answer it. So please, as we go foul to foul with 15-yard fouls, if you have a question, please ask it in the chat box.
And Sean, so this is a little bit different for us. And to piggyback on the questions being asked, there is a delay between what I hear and what the chat hears. So at the end of a rule, give me 30 seconds to a minute before moving on to allow those questions to come through.
Excellent. So here's our practice plan, very similar to the 5 and 10-yard practice that you could go back and watch as a live meeting as well. We're going to go over three categories of 15-yard fouls: fairness, safety, and game control. Now, I will tell you, I found video links for many of these fouls, and when we click on those video links, we're really only going to focus on one or two plays, but there are some plays or some videos that are 15, 20 minutes in length. So when I post this PowerPoint on Arbiter Sports under links, or sorry, under forms, and you download this PowerPoint, you could actually go to this PowerPoint, click on the link, and watch that full video. But we will not watch each full video. There's just not enough time. But as you are watching this, I encourage you, just like any other uh, video or movie, you go back and watch it like, oh, I didn't remember learning that. Oh, I didn't remember that. So come back again and watch it again, because first time today, you might learn what is the rule. Watch it again, you might learn why it's a rule, and then intent and thresholds, and then the mechanics and signals. And then if you download the PowerPoint, you click on the video links, you could get even more information. So our first fairness First category is fairness fouls, 15 yards. Kick, catch, interference. So the abbreviation is KCI. Then we'll get into illegal block after a fair catch, valid or invalid signal. Then we're going to get into pass interference, DPI, OPI, illegal participation, and then unfair acts. So our first one, kick, catch, interference. All right, rule 656. So if you're rewatching this and you want to read the rule and then come back to this, a good thing is pause, get the rule book out, go to 656, and you could read it verbatim and then come back and then see what we're discussing here. But KCI, kick, catch, interference. A kicking team member cannot obstruct or impede the receiving team player or players' path to the ball. This restriction ends when a receiving team player touches the ball. So it's kind of unique. In high school, you can't tackle the receiver until they touch the ball. You can't impede or obstruct the receiver until they touch the ball. Contact is not needed for obstruction and or impeding. There is no such thing as a 1 yard halo. However, if you as a back judge determine a kicking team player's proximity, voice, movement obstructs or impedes that receiving team's player's focus to catch that kick, you have KCI. A lot of times we'll have conversations of, my player didn't even touch the receiver. How could that be kick catch interference? It's not contact only. Those are the easy ones, which we'll take a video or see a video of. But understand, contact is not needed for KCI. It is your judgment. Did that player's location, voice impede, obstruct, hinder the focus of that receiver to catch that ball? So let's take a look at a video. And I am really hoping I thought these links would work now that I was straight on my computer. And I'm just, again, these videos, we're not going to watch all of the videos, but we want to show examples of kick catch interference. All right, so here is an example of a pooch kick. This is not an illegal pop-up kick because he gets underneath the ball. But remember, the receivers, a player or players, should have to have the opportunity without impeding to catch this kick. Nobody gives a fair catch signal, doesn't matter. They have to be allowed the opportunity to catch it, all right, until it hits a receiver. So number 23 from the red team, the kicking team touches it first. All right, this is kick catch interference by the kicking team. He is impeding and obstructing. And I believe there is one on the punt here. All right, so this is a good example of no contact. At the bottom of the screen, we have the receiver right here coming towards the ball, and then you have the kicker impeding and obstructing the path of that receiver to get the ball. This is kick catch interference. The kickers cannot impede or obstruct the receiver from getting that ball cleanly. Even though they did not give a fair catch signal, they still had to be given the opportunity to catch that kick. So before we move on to the next rule, if you have questions on kick catch interference, 15-yard penalty, this is a good time to put it in the comment box. I'm going to give it about, as Zach said, 30 seconds before we move on to the next rule.
Yep, and a reminder for the guys coming in late, go ahead and put your name in the chat box for so we know who's here. All right, Sean. Jay would like to know, since R didn't recover the ball, would the 15-yard penalty be assessed on a new kickoff?
So we have a foul during the kick, and I'm actually going to get out my football rule book, and I want to make sure kick catch interference. I'm just going to read out the penalty enforcement by rule. So kick catch interference, Article 6. Receivers may accept the results of the play and awarded fair catch after enforcement of a 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul or a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and replay of the down. So since this is a free kick, all fouls of a free kick are going to be previous spot replay of the down. But remember, if the receivers were fouled for kick catch interference, they still get the ball and they advance it, they could decline the penalty on a free kick. They can still take the result of the play, but if it's a free kick, it will not be a tack on for a free kick. And if it's a scrimmage kick punt, it will be a 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul or previous spot, and they could redo the punt.
Okay, and then JD put up a reminder that the unique high school rule for KCI that on a free kick, the receivers do not even need to be in the area. The kicking team must wait for the kick to be grounded before touching.
Correct. All right. I did not find a video on this one. This one does not happen too often, but there's a really specific time this is going to happen, and back judges, you need to be ready for it. So we have a receiver who gives a valid or invalid signal for fair catch. After they do that, they cannot then block after that signal. And what it is, it's during a scrimmage kick punt. And then they don't want the ball to stay in the field of play. They want the ball to go to the end zone for a touchback. So now they're going to block that kicker so they can't bat it to prevent it from going to the end zone. They cannot do that. All right, so that is an illegal block after a fair catch, valid or invalid signal. So back judges, you have somebody give the fair catch signal, valid or invalid, you got to make sure they do not block. And once again, this is going to be a spot foul. So typically it's going to be half the distance to the goal, spot foul. So if there are questions on this before we go to the next one, again, a fairness foul, and fairness foul, when in doubt, it wasn't an intentional block.
And just so we're clear, where we're going to see in college, the new T signal is an invalid fair catch signal. That's not. Are we taking that over into high school, or how do we? You said
not taking. Yep. So any waving signal that does not meet the requirements of above the head, back and forth, is an invalid signal. If they're just pointing at the football, that's not a waving action.
Makes sense. Thanks.
All right, I will say we are going to be very mild wide and an inch deep here. This foul of fairness, forward pass interference, we could easily spend 2 hours on, and we are not spending 2 hours on pass interference today. So the basics are coming our way here. So forward pass interference, DPI, defensive pass interference, OPI, offensive pass interference, and it's rule 7510. So no player, offense or defense, can interfere an eligible opponent's opportunity to move toward, catch, or bat a legal forward pass beyond the neutral zone. All right, so we're going to focus on the word beyond right now. So if a screen pass is happening, the defense can push that eligible receiver if that pass is in the neutral zone or behind the neutral zone. They can't hold them, they can't tackle them, they can't blindside block them, but they could push them. They could legally block them. Now, any pass beyond the neutral zone, all right, offensive interference starts at the snap, so they can't do a pick play. They can't go 1, 2 yards downfield, block a linebacker, or block another defensive back to then free up their offensive receiver for a catch beyond the neutral zone. Defensive pass interference starts after the pass is released. So if you have a defensive player holding, grabbing, restricting before the pass, you're going to have defensive hold, which we went over last week, 10-yard penalty. But if they continue to hold, now that pass is in the air. Now we have grab and restrict. That now turns into forward pass interference. So it might have started as a defensive hold. Now the pass is released. Now we have defensive pass interference. And we want to do the defensive pass interference because it's a bigger foul. It's a 15-yard foul. Since this is a fairness rule, again, we want to make it big. We want to make it huge. When in doubt, it's not a foul when it's a fairness foul. You want to look for the big, egregious ones. And we got some video here on some big, egregious interference plays. All right, so again, you grab the arm, and whenever you see one arm go up to the football, that's a huge indicator for us. All right, so as this play is going, players like to catch the ball with two hands. We have the grab and restrict to the right elbow. Receivers only able to get one hand up towards the football. This is pass interference, grab and restrict. Significantly hinders. Here's another one. All right. So this is, you could go cut off, you could go takedown, you could say taking him off his route, early contact, not playing the ball. A lot of categories here. This significantly hinders that receiver from catching or going back towards the ball. So here's another one. This is called early contact playing through the back. So yes, the defense can make a play on the ball, but it cannot be early and it cannot be through the receiver's back. This would not be considered bang bang. This was clearly significantly before the ball arrived. All right, we have pass interference again. So now here's a good one right here. This is offensive pass interference. You see how the offensive receiver's arm is at 90 degrees. And then he pushes off and he creates separation, all right, which now puts this defensive player at a disadvantage. This is offensive pass interference. If number 82 on this play would have kept his arms out completely straight and he was keeping separation versus creating separation, it would be legal. but we had 90 degrees. We have a straight arm push out. We now created separation, and now we have a catch. This is offensive pass interference. So again, make it significantly obvious when in doubt with this fairness foul, it's not a foul. So with that being said there, Zach, I'll give a couple of seconds here on questions on pass interference before I go to the next one. As questions are coming in, remember in high school football, it is 15-yard penalty, and if it's inside the 30-yard line, it's half the distance to the goal. It will never be an automatic first down.
While we're in our wait period here, can you tell me how you'd want it reported to the official or the referee when you do that? Does that make sense?
So if I'm the referee and if pass interference is being reported to me, number one, give the result of the play. We have an incomplete pass. Pass interference, defense, number 44. All right, so now I know you gave me incomplete pass, so I now know we're going to enforce the foul. If you give me completed pass, I'm now going to start processing, was that completed pass an advancement of the football more than 15 yards? So result of the play, the type of foul, and who fouled.
Yep, I think the who fouled is a big one in there too. I've had a good amount of newer officials just assume everybody knows that it's going to be on the defense, and but it actually, or vice versa, that everybody knows that it was on the offense or whatever, but the rest of us aren't paying attention. So you got to make sure we give all of the information.
Yeah. Yeah, don't just say pass interference 44 and then run away.
Right. Yep, we're good. You can move on.
Perfect. Illegal participation. So we touched on this a little bit, and those of you who are really strong followers of Timeout with PSOA, we appreciate the feedback. I made a post question, and I put the correct answer in there twice, and it wasn't quite worded correctly. But illegal participation, there's actually 6 categories. These are the 4 we see the most. No player shall go out of bounds and come back in bounds unless blocked out of bounds. So this happens on punts. The gunner tries to get around the defensive player from the receiving team, and as they're trying to get around, they might step out of bounds. If there's contact between the offensive player, defensive player on a scrimmage kick, and they go out of bounds, they were blocked out of bounds. Again, this is a fairness rule. When in doubt, they were blocked out of bounds. Now, if they clearly run around the opponent and clearly step out of bounds before the block starts, now you have potential for illegal participation. It's not a foul until they come back in bounds, though. So they could run out of bounds. They just can't come back in. Next one, no team personnel out of bounds shall influence the play. So you have a coach or a player near the sideline and they trip up the ball carrier. That's illegal participation. All right. This is what we talked about last week. A team shall not have 12 players affect the play at the snap. Prevent this, please. If we miss 12 players on the field and we don't get 12 players until the ball is snapped, yes, we have to go illegal participation, 15-yard penalty. But back judges and line of scrimmage, counting the defense, once that umpire puts down the ball, count the defense. Give the coach the opportunity to count their players and get them legal. But if you can, do not let them play with 12 players. Shut it down, dead ball foul. If you can't, they play with 12. We have illegal participation, 15 yards. Player with helmet off cannot continue to participate beyond continuing action. So helmets off not due to foul or helmets off due to foul, they can't continue to participate in the play. They have to stop playing. All right. That's a safety foul for that player. But you can't take off your helmet and continue playing, minus If I'm in there making a tackle, my helmet pops off and I complete the tackle, that's legal. Now they just have to sit out of play. But if their helmet comes off and they run down the field 15 yards chasing the ball carrier, that is illegal participation foul. So before we go on to the next one, the signal down there is hard to see. I'll try to describe it. It is two hands on the front side of the white hat. So if we go put our hands behind our head, that's the signal for loss of down. Illegal participation, you want to put on the top of your head or
Oh, Sean, you cut out. Yeah, we lost Sean here. Just a second.
more near the
Oh,
front.
there you are.
So it clearly is different than the loss. Okay, so here we go. The signal for illegal participation is two hands either clearly on top or a little bit towards the front. All right. Because if you go behind your head, now you have loss of down. You don't want to go behind your head for illegal participation. It's on top. I moved a little bit towards the front so everybody could see my two hands, which is the clear signal for illegal participation. All right. Last fairness foul, unfair acts. And coaches come up with a lot of crazy plays. They're going to foul intentionally at the end of the game because every play takes 5 seconds. If we foul every single time, even though it's half the distance to the goal, we do that 4 times, that's 20 seconds. That's unfair. So if that happens, something out of the ordinary, there is no specific rule explaining all the situations for unfair acts. All right, so literally 9-9, a player or non-player not subject to the rule shall not hinder play by an unfair act which has no specific rule coverage. So if it's one of those things like this is not fair, it's not in the rule, this is the rule that's in the rule book. As a referee, you can enforce any penalty considered equitable. All right, so you are the judge and the jury and the executioner to make sure this unfair act doesn't determine who wins and who loses the game. It could be you could award a touchdown. You could award time back on the clock. Again, there's so many situations, but if you run across an unfair act that's not in the rule book, you have this rule 9-9 to go to enforce not only a 15-yard penalty, but even more to make it equitable. I love putting this in here because I believe it was Nebraska who did it. Ball carrier cannot put the ball underneath their jersey. Weird, unique thing. Even though we give the signal of unsportsmanlike conduct, if you get a player to hide the ball, it is not an unsportsmanlike conduct. It's just a 15-yard penalty from the basic spot. And then you have the travesty of the game. Travesty of the game is true story. It was a continued action of personal foul after personal foul after personal foul, where the coaches were actually telling their players, who cares, play to the whistle, and hit them as hard as you can every single time, whether they're near the football or not near the football. Guess what? We ended that game. That was a travesty of the game. And we told the coach, if you continue to coach your players to do personal fouls on purpose, we're ending this football game. And that's exactly what we did. It was a travesty of the game, and we just ended the game. So I'm not sure if anyone has another situation of an unfair act or have a question of would this fit under the rule of unfair act, but I'll give it 30 seconds before we get into the safety 15-yard penalties.
Okay, and my chat took a second to update, and we had a couple questions come in, so we might circle back here. So JD asks, on a punt play where the gunner runs out of bounds on his own, what is the basic spot and where And what is the spot of the foul?
Yeah, so the spot of the foul is going to be the spot where they come back inbounds. So that's going to be the spot of the foul. Now, the basic spot, you could have two spots. You could have post scrimmage kick spot, or you could have previous spot. So it could be the end of the kick or the previous spot. And depending on where that player comes back inbounds, will determine was it ahead of the basic spot or was it behind the basic spot.
Because he can run out of bounds and not come back in to avoid that penalty, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep. If he runs out of bounds, stays out of bounds, it is not a foul.
perfect. Now, Lance asked, how do we rule momentum on this? A player dives to make a tackle and ends out of bounds. Rule no illegal participation, correct?
Correct. Because that's a football act. So they have to intentionally go out of bounds and affect the play. So it's sort of like if I'm going to go back to the screen of illegal participation, unless blocked out of bounds, if I'm engaged in the block and I step out of bounds, I was blocked out of bounds. I did not do it intentionally. We are looking for a clear, intentional, egregious act of going out of bounds for it to be a potential foul.
Perfect. Yeah, you're good.
All right. So seven safety rules. So fairness, we went when in doubt, it's not a foul. The threshold on fairness, when in doubt, it's not. Safety. So these rules are put in play because we don't want players getting hurt. Sometimes it's themselves putting them in harm's way. Most of the time, it's the opponent. Safety fouls, when in doubt, it is a foul. So block below the waist, clipping, chop block, face mask, horse collar tackle, targeting, blindside block, and then roughing, roughing, roughing. All right, so let's get into it. So we got block below the waist. These are all personal fouls where we cross our arms. All right. So a block below the waist cannot initiate a block below an opponent's weights. Exceptions. If the block below the waist is immediately after snap, if all players involved started in the free blocking zone, and if the contact is in the free blocking zone. So we're going to get to a play here. In one quick second, where it's going to show all of these exceptions are not met. All right, so this is where a running back does not start within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. So he cannot block below the waist. So as we go, he goes low below the waist. You would almost even be able to consider that a chop block potentially. All right. So here's another one. The running back, once again, is not on the line of scrimmage. It's not immediate. And he initiates the contact low below the waist. So this player is not inside the free blocking zone. So therefore, he cannot be blocked below the waist. And he is a defender, and it was not immediate as well. And even the defense can't block below the waist. But I would not consider this in the free blocking zone. And it wasn't immediate either. So that is an illegal block below the waist on the defense. And we're going to take a look. I believe this is an open field block below the waist. It's by number 2. So we're going to go back here. Number 2 is a defensive back coming back in, blocking below the waist. When in doubt, if it's at or below the waist, we will make it at the waist because believe it or not, there are a lot of plays that they start high and slide down. if they start high, finish below the waist, it is a legal block because it started high. But if they clearly start down, they are going down in a downward trajectory, it's going to be illegal block below the waist.
And that's another one of those that we'll see or hear. Hey, well, we see it on Saturday and Sunday, but different rule set, right? So they can do it on Saturday and Sunday. We cannot on Friday.
Yeah. So understand the exceptions. Immediate, player start in the free blocking zone, contact is in the free blocking zone. Clipping and chop block. All right, so we have clipping is very, very difficult to see. So we do have a picture here of we have a blocking by an opponent from the backside at or below the waist. Notice now on clipping, since it's on the backside, it also includes the waist. So it's not below the waist, it's at the waist or below. Again, very dangerous, not the initial contact, but see how he's going to land on the knee, see how he's going to land on the ankle, and that's what causes a lot of knee injuries and ankle injuries. So they just make it a big personal foul, clipping, and the signal is personal foul, referees, and then hitting the back of your knee in a striking motion. And then this is a chop block. The two main chop blocks is where the running back comes forward, like we saw in that last video, as that offensive lineman is engaged high, running back goes low. We have chop block. Another one is five offensive linemen, they don't communicate well, and one goes low to the right, one goes high to his left on the same opponent. With or without delay, it is still a foul for chop block. So the video here is if you download this PowerPoint and you click this, it goes over the rule and shows about three different clips from behind, at, and below the waist, and three different chop blocks, one high, one low. Most of these times, it's by the offense behind the basic spot, which is the previous spot, and make sure we enforce these. If they're from behind the line of scrimmage, we enforce it at the previous spot. All right, face mask measure. We went over the 5-yard face mask last practice where it's just a grasp. When in doubt on the grasp, it's not a foul. Now, we are looking for face mask measures. So when in doubt, they do grab and then they pull or turn, lift up, pin back, and it's any helmet opening. So it could be the air hole, it could be the back side of the helmet, it could be the side of the helmet. Many times people think it's only truly the face mask because it's called the face mask foul, but it is any helmet opening. All right. So again, face mask measure. When in doubt, they only grab with an open hand. But if it's clearly you see that opponent's head turn, you have face mask measure. Lean on the side of a 15-yard penalty when an opponent is messing with the opening of their opponent's helmet. Before, you just let me know if there's questions on previous fouls, Zach. The last thing I will say on the face mask, ball carriers can foul as well. Stiff arm is legal. Open hand stiff arm is legal. If it's open hand and they turn their opponent's helmet, that is legal. It's once they close their hands as a ball carrier, then pull, turn, get them off themselves as a ball carrier, that's when it's a foul. So if coaches are listening to this and watching this, have your ball carrier stiff arm with an open hand and keep that hand open so it doesn't turn into a face mask. You can turn an opponent's head with an open hand. All right. Here's a fun one, and we got some pretty cool videos here. I'm going to show two videos of horse collar tackles because we hear it all the time. We can't, I can't tell you that this diagram right here is an illegal act. Yep, we have a grab. We have a grab on the inside back nameplate area, 100%. But what we don't know, did they pull him backwards, sidewards, or did this ball carrier actually get out of this grab and pull? All right, so this is a processing foul, horse collar tackle. You're looking for the location of the grab. You're looking at the direction of where that grab then takes the opponent. And then does that grab take the opponent to the ground backwards or sidewards? So we should have a video here. And I'm just going to get to the video portion. All right, so here we have the grab, but that ball carrier was going forward. Here we have a grab, but that it was the shoulder pad and he did not take him down to the ground. Nameplate area grab, yes, but does it pull him backwards and to the ground? This would be a horse collar tackle, backwards to the ground. So the learning point on this is don't throw your flag too fast on a horse collar tackle. It's a process foul. But when in doubt, it is backwards, it is sidewards, and when in doubt, it did take them to the ground. But if you throw your flag too soon and they break out of it, you're going to have to pick up your flag because it didn't take them down to the ground. So I know there might be a couple questions on this horse collar tackle, so I will give it a couple minutes on this one. Not minutes, seconds.
I'll ask a question. So when we're grabbing in the back, you touched on like shoulder pad and whatnot. How far down the back do you look? I mean, I know it's stated like nameplate area, but do we give any grace on that? Kind of what you're looking at.
Yeah, so we inside, I'm gonna give pretty much the 180-degree section of the inside collar. When it comes to only the jersey, so our fingers are not inside the jersey, it's completely on the outside of the jersey. I'm going to go shoulder blade to shoulder blade nameplate area. So anything that's near the shoulder pad, anything that's near the arm is not nameplate area. I'm going nameplate area, shoulder blade to shoulder blade. And it is okay, officials, after play, coaches are screaming horse collar tackle, horse collar tackle. I have used a signal with my hand and I'm going to my shoulder and I am explaining to the coaches the grab of the jersey was at the shoulder pad and not the nameplate area.
Okay, I think we're good.
All right. This always brings up a lot of conversation. Again, this is probably another 1 hour if we go really, really deep into the weeds with it. Illegal helmet contact, Rule 220. Butt blocking. This is a headbutt. So any player cannot headbutt. So a headbutt is I bring my head back and then with force, I bring it forward into my opponent. Yes, offensive and defensive linemen, they hit helmets every single play, but they can't bring their head back and then forward with a headbutting action. That would be butt blocking, illegal helmet contact. Face tackling, only the defensive player contacting the runner with the front of his helmet. So yes, we want to teach the defense, see your target, but we need to tell the defense, their head has to get to the side of their target. This face tackling rule is there to protect the defense. They cannot use the front of their helmet on the ball carrier. They have to get to the head to the side and use their shoulder and drive through. Spearing. Believe it or not, this is to protect the runner. The runner cannot lower their head and then go into the defense like a ram. They cannot use the top of their helmet and go through an opponent. Yes, this is offense and defense. It's for any player, but we see this more specifically running backs. They lower their head, top of their helmet, and they go through their opponent like a ram. Notice a ram goes straight through. If they lower their head and they go on a downward angle, they are not going through their opponent. They're trying to get that extra yard. A ram will stay perpendicular to the ground and go through their opponent. Do not let ball carriers do this. They have to stop that. And if we don't throw the flag, they're going to continue doing it as a ball carrier in their career. And eventually it's going to take one hit. That could be a life traumatic change. So let's end that practice early for those ball carriers. Targeting, taking aim and initiate contact with an opponent above the shoulders. This could be with an arm, this could be with the fist, this could be with a shoulder pad, and this can be with a helmet. All right. I will say this, high school targeting is not an automatic ejection. Let's take a look at a couple of hits. Oh, I thought we had. No, we might not be able to get this video. It looks like the wrong link connected here. I will say throughout our training tapes throughout the year, I'd be shocked once we get past week 0 training tape if we don't have illegal helmet contact every single time. Originally, the link that was supposed to be here and that will be there before I post it, it's an NCAA training tape with about 5 or 6 actions of targeting where you just see both offense and defense take aim at the opponent above the shoulders. And then the signal here is a personal foul up top, and then a closed fist to the side of the head. When in doubt, is it illegal helmet contact? Yes, it is illegal helmet contact. Get the players protecting their head. Just because they have helmets on does not mean they're invincible. Let them teach them how to correctly tackle, how to correctly run, and seeing where they're going.
Okay, Sean. So if we have, Lance's question is: do we flag the ball carrier who lowers his head going into the line of scrimmage, or are we looking for that more in the open field? So I picture. Go ahead.
We are looking for it everywhere, but it doesn't become a foul until they contact an opponent. So let's say they lower their head and go into a pile, but they never contact an opponent. They just run into their teammate. It's not a foul. So that's where we want to go to that ball carrier. Hey, number 23, keep your head up when you run, please. Because if you hit the opponent with the top of your helmet, that would have been a foul.
You're good.
Cool. Blindside block. So 2 hands together after the personal foul. Block on an opponent that does not see the contact coming. All right, so on this slide, I really want to focus what is legal, what we want to instruct players to do. Because if you work football enough, yes, even during live ball, we can prevent this foul. We could literally say, easy, easy, don't do it, hold up, Get still, run by them, open your hands, because those are the things we want to tell players. It is legal to stand still and get in the way. I call this the basketball screen. And I'll take it a step farther. You could even legally make a illegal basketball screen as in a little movement to the side to absorb the contact. You can use your body to get in the way of an opponent. You just can't thrust forward and then displace the opponent. Another thing is you could legally extend your arms with open hands to almost stop your opponent. Now you can't go from 90 degrees, then push out straight with straight arms, but you can hold your arms out with open hands and again absorb the contact. And then the one we see a lot now, especially on punt returns, is the flyby block. That is literally where a blocker is coming down full blast, brick in the hand, and at the last second, they raise their hand, they fly right by the opponent, don't make any contact at all. And it's sort of like two cars coming at each other. You have two people coming at each other, and then you veer off to the side. And then once you veer off to the side, you slam on the brakes. That then, now the ball carrier could get by and advance just by causing that opponent to slam on their brakes so they don't run into another blocker, so to speak. But any block outside the vision of an opponent, yes, of an opponent. I have seen illegal blindside blocks by the defense as well. If it's a blindside block outside the opponent's vision, they could absorb the block, they could stand there and set a screen, or they could stand there with extended arms with open hands. And I really hope this comes up. Yes. All right. This is actually from my alma mater play. I want to make sure I get the right play. And here it is. All right. So if you know my emails, st_rita1920. This is my alma mater, and this is an example of a blindside block by number 4. All right, he's now looking. Ooh, who could I get? Who could I get? All those players are out of his vision. Illegal blindside block. What's unique about this play is if you take a look at the rule, number 42, number 3, number 12, number 16, number 43. If he were to block any of those 5, it would be outside the block. So now the question is, do we make this a live ball or dead ball foul? When in doubt, make it a live ball foul, but definitely do not miss this illegal blindside block outside the vision of an opponent. And obviously that wasn't with open hands, and he wasn't setting a screen, and he did not do a flyby block. So in this video, again, I think there's about 10 examples of illegal blindside blocks that you could click on and view. All right, roughing, roughing, roughing. Big thing here. These are the only automatic first downs in high school football. Roughing the snapper, roughing the holder, roughing the kicker, and roughing the passer. All right, so whatever football we watch on Saturdays and Sundays, we have to tell ourselves the only automatic first downs are roughing, roughing, roughing. And pretty much, again, another rule we could go really, really deep, but the key word is charge. The defense cannot charge into the snapper if the offense is in scrimmage kick formation. They have to allow that snapper to get their head up and defend themselves. The defense cannot charge into the holder who's holding a place kick for a field goal. The defense cannot charge into a kicker. Exception, if they are making a tackling action and it's not obvious or apparent, that player who has the ball, who's going to be a potential kicker, if it is a tackling action, we will allow somebody to take a kicker down to the ground if after they start that tackling action, they get the ball off as a kicker. But if they are not tackling them, they cannot charge them um, after the kick. And then passer, the thing with passers, the defense has to make definite effort to avoid charging into a passer after the ball is gone. The unique thing about passing is the vulnerability of that throwing posture. And the defender sees that passer in the throwing posture. So they have to mentally make the connection. All right, I can't attack this passer the way I can a ball carrier. If they are in a throwing posture, they are awarded so much more protection than if they were to bring that ball into their body and look like a ball carrier. All right. If they have that ball tucked away and they're a ball carrier, and at the last second they just do a shovel pass, I'm going to allow that defense to tackle that perceived ball carrier because they were acting like a ball carrier. But if they are in a throwing posture, it is the defense's responsibility to know they're in a throwing posture, they are a passer, and now when that pass is thrown, even if it's immediate, they have to make a definite effort to avoid a charge. That's slowing down, that is putting on the brakes. They can't keep on accelerating, going through, landing their whole body weight on the passer. They have to slow down. So there might be some questions on the roughing the passer, but I hope I did a good explanation of it's not that we are protecting passers more than ball carriers because quote unquote they're more important. No, we protect passers more because their position of throwing posture makes them more vulnerable to injury. So we have to have a very higher threshold to protect those passers. We got to stop the defense from charging into those passers while they're in the passing posture.
Okay. Can you talk about giving the signals and start with blindside block for me? About Cliff had a question with how to give the signal with the two fists going together, whether it was just one motion to touch or if you were supposed to do it like twice or bounce it and then move. Can you describe the roughing, if there's anything special to do on any of the roughings for me?
Yeah, so if you take a look at this diagram and it has one arrow, whenever it has one arrow, that's one movement. So I am literally going personal foul where our hands cross, arms cross, and then with one movement, I am bringing my fists together one time. So we're not bouncing those fists off of each other. It is literally one motion together. And once my knuckles meet, I'm going to hold it there for about a half a second, and then I'll point offense or I'll point defense. So the blindside block is one motion and get your knuckles together and get it stopped. Do not bounce it. Roughing the passer or roughing the kicker. Again, it's only one arrow. So it's the personal foul, crossing hand and arm, and then it is one action. So I call this the karate chop. So I am karate chopping slash doing the throwing motion to indicate it was roughing the passer. And then if it's the kicker, I am then doing one leg pump with my right foot. You can do a left foot as well if you're left footed, but it's that personal foul and then just one pumping motion with the leg, one karate chop slash throwing motion with the arm.
Sounds good. Looks like we're ready to move on.
All right, our last category, control 15-yard fouls. This is keeping control of the game. This is one thing that Nate has said many times to us is when it comes to the big games at the end of the season, he needs crews that can control the game, control the players, control the coaches, and just make sure they stay playing football. And this is now the section of how to use the rule book to keep control of the game. So, sideline interference, coach being outside the team area but not on the field. Three-step process. We talked about it last week. First flag, we give the warning to the team. And when one team gets the warning, it's usually the other sideline that cleans up the most. And the sooner you get that warning out in a game, the quicker you get control of those sidelines and you get that get back coach's attention. If they still have coaches in the team area, now the second flag is a 5-yard flag. That's what we did only signal 29 last week. And then the third time, now you're going to go dead ball foul, hands behind your back, sideline interference, unsportsmanlike conduct, 15-yard penalty. All right, so it's actually the third time before it gets to the control of the sideline. And typically, the sooner we get the warning out, the more control we get of the sideline. And yes, plural, sidelines. There is no warning if there's contact by the coach in the restricted area. If there's contact, it's an automatic 15-yard penalty, unsportsmanlike conduct. Right? If they are in the restricted area, if they are on the field, it is a 15-yard penalty. So I believe I have a diagram that's going to come up here. Yes. So we always get what is the team box area? What is the restricted area? All right. So the restricted area, this is 2 yards. When we mean by restricted, there's two types of restriction. Number one, only 3 coaches can be in that area during the dead ball time period. So the play is over. 3 coaches could step in, 3 coaches could signal, 3 coaches could communicate subs on and off the field. When that snapper puts their hand on the ball, that snap is imminent. Now this restricted area is for officials only. So officials, we're dead ball officiating, getting out to the numbers. The umpire places the ball down. We are stepping back into the restricted area. At that point, coaches can still be in there. 3 coaches can still be in there. Then when the snapper puts their hand on the football, officials take one more step back. Because as you take a step back, guess what the coaches do? They take a step back, and now they're outside of the restricted area. So coaches cannot be in this restricted area during live ball. If they're in the area during live ball, warning, 5-yard penalty, then 15-yard penalty. If you make contact as an official with a player or coach in this restricted area during live ball, no warning, it is a straight 15-yard penalty. Unsportsmanlike conduct, UNS. All right, I'm going to have some more examples here via video of baiting and taunting. I'm actually talking to a very large group of coaches tonight, and we are going to tell the coaches, football is a very emotional game. Um, it, it it's just a lot of adrenaline going, but we have to be able to control our emotions and celebrate with our team. Nothing can be towards an opponent, nothing can be towards an official, nothing can be intended to embarrass somebody else. Celebrate the good acts, celebrate the great plays. Have your chain, have your belt ceremony, but have it on the sideline with your team. So no baiting, no taunting, no vulgar language, gestures, profanity towards an opponent or officials. No excessive, prolonged acts. That's orchestrated acts. Spiking the ball, definition, threshold, spiking the ball. It hits the ground and goes above the player's head. That is a spike. Throwing the ball high into the air. What's high into the air? Everybody sees the ball high in the air. And then delaying the game excessively. I will say one of my pet peeves, officials saying, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. You got to hand the officials the ball. No, they don't. They can. It's helpful that they do, but they can leave the ball on the ground. What they can't do is keep the ball and run away with it. They can't prevent giving it to the official. They can't throw the ball to the opponent. They can't hand the ball to the opponent. That's baiting and taunting, right? If we miss these UNS fouls, if we miss these, guess what the other team is going to do? They're going to get mad and there's going to get revenge. If they get mad and revengeful, we are going to have issues in the game. All right, so we're going to go to this. So that is taunting and baiting. All right. They can't look back. They cannot flip into the end zone. That's not necessary. That's not football. Unsportsmanlike Conduct Act. After a touchdown score, they cannot celebrate in the field of play orchestrated like that. Actually, the whole team comes down and celebrates in the end zone. This is unsportsmanlike conduct. You do not celebrate on the field of play or in the end zone. You celebrate as a team in your team area. All right, and then there's one more after a tackle that we're going to show. I believe this is the one. Yes, it is legal to have really good hard hits and tackles and plays, but you cannot taunt towards your opponent. You cannot bait your opponent. If this player went to his teammates and were celebrating with his teammates, no UNS, that was clearly towards an opponent. If you want to lose control of a game, don't throw the flag on this. You're going to see revenge. To keep a control of the game, anything directed towards an opponent like that, we have to flag right away. Have to, have to, have to. And then the last foul here is 15-yard flagrant foul. So this is fighting. This is severe. This is putting an opponent in an extreme danger and can lead to serious injury. Like we can't officiate intent except on this rule. I call it the dangerous eyes. If you've done football enough, you've seen those eyes of
Oh, I don't know what happened, Sean. We lost you again.
rage. If you see those, you hurt. Just because they have raging eyes, it's not a foul. But it's a very red flag indicator. They are looking to seriously injure somebody. Talk to the coach to prevent flagrant fouls. Now, we don't see the rage eyes, we just see the rage happen. We have punching with a closed fist. And when I say punching with a closed fist, they cock back and then go forward. A jab is not going to be a punch flagrant foul for me. A jab is going to be a dead ball late hit. A jab could be an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. This is another thing. When in doubt, it is a UNS. When in doubt, it is not a flagrant foul. So if you want a threshold, what's a punch that leads to ejection? It is a cock back. It is a full forward punch. When in doubt, it is not a punch. Call it a UNS. But if Graham on the top row could see the punch, whether that punch lands or not, it could be a swing and a miss. It is still an ejection and a flagrant foul. We had this last year in Nebraska, stomping on an opponent. Literally, it was an intentional. The player gets up, seeks out the opponent, and stomps on his neck. That is a flagrant act. And what made it really intentional, he took a step towards the opponent. It wasn't an accidental thing as he was getting up at the bottom of the pile. A stomp is a flagrant foul, puts an opponent at dangerous of serious injury with the spikes. Kicking intentionally at an opponent, again, I am looking for a cock back and a cock through the opponent. Even if they don't make contact, you could still have a flagrant foul. But if, like, kicking, imagine a field goal kick, imagine a punt kick, imagine a free kick. There is an action back, there is an action to the ball, and there is a follow through. That's the type of action I'm looking for a flagrant foul. When in doubt, I will call it a unsportsmanlike contact use of the leg. But if it's no doubt flagrant foul, as in he would have kicked the football like that, instead he kicked the opponent. Now we're going to eject that player for a flagrant foul. Fighting, leaving the bench area to participate in a fight, flagrant foul, automatic ejection. Spitting at an official, spitting on an opponent, automatic ejection. And this is where I will go back to the targeting. All right, we talked about targeting in high school. It is not an automatic ejection, but if you have the targeting so severe, so extreme, not only did he lower his head, he crouched down, he thrusted upwards, he left his feet, and he just absolutely demolished the defenseless player opponent. You can eject the player. It is targeting and a flagrant foul. So these are for the, I call it the Ronnie Lott hits. And I have a lot of respect for Ronnie Lott. Those were the rules when he played, but those are the rules that are not legal in football anymore. They lead to way too much life altering changes in people's brains and then their life for the rest of their life. We have to teach players, they have to get those severe actions, extreme hits out of the game. So if you deem it extreme, severe, and puts the opponent at danger of serious injury, you can call it flagrant as well. So that does conclude the 15-yard control rules. If you're on a varsity crew, this is a great crew goal of preventive officiating, seeing the issues fester, build up, and you as a crew de-escalate before the 15-yard penalties happen. See that frustrated player. Talk to that player, talk to the coach before they do a 15-yard UNS. After a score, have proximity, get that football, talk to the players to go back to their huddle and or sidelines to celebrate. Get in between opponents before they bait and taunt. And then if you see the eyes of rage, get that to the coach to prevent a flagrant foul. All right, I am going to wrap this practice up. Upcoming practices for PSOA. I did post it on arbitersports.com. This is open to anybody. So if you are getting to this right now and you're like, oh man, I want to officiate, I just don't know how to start. You don't have uniform, you don't have equipment, get to Papio South this Saturday, 6:30 to 9:30. We will have extra shirts. Have a black shirt, have black pants. We will get you going. But 6:30 to 7 is position training. 7 to 9:10, there's going to be 6 different scrimmages. 9:10 and 9:30 post scrimmage questions. Next week, we will be posting the NSAA NHSOA training tape for week 0. That's going to focus on this year's point of emphasis and then the new free kick mechanics. And we will cover free kick mechanics that are kicked off from the 40-yard line, free kick mechanics that are kicked off from the 20-yard line after a safety, and free kick mechanics after an awarded fair catch. So if you haven't learned about that stuff yet, great idea to tune in for a training tape for week 0. Zach, before we end the practice, any other last second questions come in?
I do not. I do not see a thing.
All right, guys. Those of you who attended live, thank you for taking time out this evening. Those of you who are watching it at a later date or time, thank you for taking time out with PSOA. And always remember, officials, you're only as good